Hello everybody. This is the start of our new series. We're going to be looking at games of Akiba Rubenstein, very strong player from the past. This game was played in 1907, quite a long time ago. The goal of the series is to go through some games of players that I choose and try to get a feel for some middle game ideas and opening ideas that I don't already know. I only play a certain amount of openings, but I'm going to be going through games that include a variety of openings, so I'm going to be instilling new patterns into my brain by going through these games. I'm going to try to guess the direction and some of the ideas of the game. So let's start. So our opponent is Georg Rotlewi, something like that. He opens up with d4. I'm expecting knight f6 or pawn to d5. Okay, so Akiba goes pawn d5. We have a knight development, so we have a queen's pawn opening. I'm expecting knight f6. Potentially he might develop the bishop, but I'm expecting knight f6. Okay, e6, another logical move, defending the center and developing a bishop. Okay, so white plays e3. This doesn't threaten anything, it just opens up the diagonal, similar to what black has done. So here I'm expecting maybe a knight move, bishop move, or a c-pawn move. Okay, so we get a c-pawn move by Akiba. And this attacks the center immediately and helps develop the knight behind the pawn. So white counteracts with c4 of his own. So this block of pawns is, especially with this pawn structure, d6 is the Tarrasch. So it's a well-known thing. These pawns end up liquidating a lot. They disappear. White takes or black takes, either way, and one of the players ends up with like an isolated queen's pawn. One of these will survive for one of the players. Okay, so white goes here. So black has options. I'm assuming he's going to play one of the knights out. I mean, you could do other stuff, but those are the most reasonable. So he plays a knight out, which is developing a piece towards the center. So white does the same thing, developing a piece towards the center. And a lot of these Tarrasch positions, they start off very symmetrical, so I mean, they're whatever. Not my favorite, but I guess if you want to be, a grandmaster, you have to know how to play all the positions, or a lot of them. So yeah, he just develops a knight, so anyone could have guessed these moves so far, not that difficult. Okay, so he takes. Like I said, these pawns will probably get liquidated at some point. Okay, so I'm guessing maybe he takes back his pawn. That seems reasonable. He does. So white plays here. Maybe this threatens to gain space, potentially kick the bishop when the bishop moves. Play c5, cementing this 3-on-2 pawn structure. Okay. So maybe black, he might just ignore it in castle. He might play something like a5. Okay, so he plays a6. So he doesn't care about this because once he moves the bishop, a5 he can always take. For example, if you just castle, if you just castle here and white kicks the bishop and the bishop moves, then he gets to kick the knight. And the knight doesn't have good forward squares, so then you'd really be letting him kick your minor pieces around too much. So I was thinking a5, but a6 serves the same purpose of not letting him kick this knight. That way you keep control over these squares. I think. This is just what I'm coming up with on the fly. Okay, so this makes sense in light of stopping white's idea, prophylaxis. White does it anyway. I'm glad I guessed it. Okay, so he retreats one square. Oops, I'm supposed to be coming up with the moves first. Well, you have to move your bishop, but yeah, he moves it one square. This does walk into this with tempo, which white might have wanted to do anyway. I guess he wants to stay on this diagonal. That's the idea. He wants to be on a more active diagonal. Okay, so white does not push. White develops a piece. Takes. Check. Okay, so this pawn isn't hanging just yet because of the bishop check here at the end of the line. So I'm expecting maybe a castles, maybe... I don't know, some type of developing move. Castles are a developing move. They all seem reasonable. Castles, yeah, makes the most sense. Okay, so he moves his queen up. What's he threatening? He's not going to long castle because that looks crazy because these pawns are too far advanced. So he's lifting this up in order to maybe defend this pawn and re-threaten this. So now takes. No, it still doesn't matter. Why'd he do this? I guess it's just a general improving move. Okay, so I guess for black we're gonna, it's a simple pawn structure. I guess the plan for black is to one day develop the light square bishop, put a rook on the c-file, and eventually get rid of these pawns. So in this position, I mean, I wonder if he ever takes and then pushes b5 and then maybe bishop b7 to develop. Otherwise, I mean, what move? I don't know. Maybe he's going to do what I said, like take in b5. Maybe knight here, here, here. Maybe he'll jump the knight in. Maybe he'll take. Okay, he just develops the queen. Yeah, there's too many options to like guess the move. Okay, so he moves the queen. This coordinates greatly here. Also gets out of this alignment, so you can put the rook here and lines up with the king. So in this position, it is a logical move. Okay. It also helps prepare this in the future. So white develops, eyeing the king. Very, very logical move. Okay, so now maybe he takes. Okay, yeah, that's why he probably didn't take. He wanted to make the bishop waste the tempo first, moving. So now maybe he takes and does the b5 idea. Alternatively, rook d8 looks like a move. Takes. I wonder if even e5 in this position is a move now that he blocked this. These are some ideas. Let's see how Akiba proceeds. Okay, he takes that. I would have taken because I do want to play b5 and fianchetto, and waiting for this to move first makes tons of sense. Okay, so now b5 looks like you have to play it because otherwise white plays it and gets active. So b5 or some type of forcing move. I mean, rook d8 is kind of tricky because it lines up with the queen. Knight jumps are no good. Yeah, so b5 makes the most sense. Okay, he runs. So now something like fianchettoing looks like it makes a lot of sense, or rook to d8. He starts with rook to d8, which is weird. I mean, it's definitely a move you want to make, but I feel like bishop b7 is just way more, like, priority-wise important. Especially with this bishop here, covering the queen. It's like it's less dangerous with the rook. I'm just curious, the engine. Okay. 0.02 difference. So one's minus 0.5, one's minus 0.52, with the minus 0.52 being the better one, bishop b7. Okay, but they're basically the same. Because you're going to get to play both in one turn after the other, no matter which way you do it. Okay, whatever. Okay. So now, okay, so white moves his queen away from the alignment. We just finished development. Okay, so we could have guessed most of these moves so far. We could have played like this. So now in a position like this, what's like the overarching theme? So we have open C and D files, both of us. Our pawn structure's completely symmetrical on both sides. Bishops are the same, knights are the same, rooks are the same. Wait, our position is completely identical, except we have a rook on d8. He doesn't have a rook on d1, and he's white, and it's our turn. So somehow white lost 2 tempi, and we're in the exact same position. I have the extra rook move, and it's my turn. That's crazy. So just based on that, black has to be better, and he is better by 0.5. Half a move, half a pawn. Okay, so now it's our turn. We're a little bit ahead of white, which is kind of crazy. I almost want to go back and like see how that happened. We're up 2 tempi. Well, one of the tempi was this extra bishop move, and I don't know, the other one's somewhere. You could maybe go rook c8. What else do we have? If you're looking for trades, knight in the center, one of them, if you wanted trades for some reason. Otherwise, you kind of don't want to push the pawns. Maybe lift for the king. Okay, so he does jump the knight in the center. This opens up the bishop, which is logical, but trades a piece. I guess as black, you don't mind trading pieces, although you're better here. So he takes, so you have to take. Now you're staring at this bishop. f4. This looks a little weird, because you create this giant hole in this backwards pawn, but the idea, it comes with tempo, and which means that next turn, if he plans on pushing this here, it covers the weakness, 2 weaknesses in one, and it's supported a lot, so he might be able to get away with it, but maybe not. Okay, so my bishop's attacked. If you just move it somewhere, and he pushes this, yeah, so maybe take. If you take, now it's your turn. So you hit the bishop. He protects it with the rook. Some rook here. I mean, then you can jump your knight in here. That's something. But otherwise, if you just move your bishop, he'll take the center. And I don't really know what you do there. I don't really know what to do here. I would probably be too afraid to retreat my bishop if if e4 works. Okay, so he retreats it, which is apparently very good. And in the top 5 moves of the engine, e4 is not a move, but it's the move I was worried about. It's the move this guy Georg apparently plays, but it's not even in the top 5 moves for white here. But he plays it, and this is the move I was like, you should calculate and see if it works or not, because if it works, these pawns are quite restrictive, Yeah, see, this was my thing. I don't know, like, I guess if you want to improve the bishop for free, you can throw in this check. He'll move. You can activate your other rook. I mean, if he ever pushes, you can jump in the center, and you're fine. But if I was him, I would leave these two next to each other and not push. So as black here, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, engine says plus 1.6. So, like, what do? You just bring your other rook in? Do you double rooks? I mean, he could always harass the knight and then play on the e4 square with his pieces, which would allow you for some trades. So, like, if you bring in a rook or go, you know, bishop here and bring in a rook, if he pushes and you jump in here hitting the knight can like jump in here and try to play around. Maybe f5 comes at some one day. I don't know what to do here as black. I probably would have tried not to allow this. Okay, so he does do the move I mentioned and just bring the rook in. I'm not sure why he didn't include this check. I get there's this diagonal, but I feel like the bishop's in the way of the rook, and if you could have unblocked it for free, why not? Okay, so he kicks the knight, but like I said, kicking the knight is good sometimes, lots of times, if the knight doesn't have a forward jump, like if you can't jump into the center safely, then like if you have to retreat, then it's oftentimes really, you know, good for white. But here he's relinquishing control over some of these squares, so I can jump in here. I get, although now you do have to worry about like f5 ideas and him attacking your king. I guess knight here again, probably throwing this check because now your bishop looks really dumb. So maybe throwing the check, king over, knight here. Okay, so he does throw in the check. Yeah, this looks way more beautiful. Maybe there's a reason he didn't do it on the prior turn. Maybe he even wanted to provoke this or something. So the king moves, and now your knight's hanging, so let's move that. Not a square I was looking at. I mean, I'm not playing the game for real, but... Okay, so he takes this, you're going to take this, and that would be a great trade if he allows it, of course. Okay, but let's say he doesn't take. What's the real purpose of this move? You don't want to go here and give up 2 pieces for the rook. It does coordinate here, but if you wanted to get to this square, you could have gone there immediately. This is suspicious. I guess he can never play g4 because of the pin, but then again, what the heck is knight h6? And if your whole plan is really to use this square, I mean, he can stop that. I'm not a... Oops. I'm sorry. What move is that? Bishop e6. Knight here. Okay, I'm just curious. Yeah, it actually is the best move by a lot. By a good amount in the engine. I wonder why that is. So knight d5. Knight takes d5. Bishop takes d5. h3. Okay, so then what's so special about knight g4? Let's see. So white goes here, removing this whole idea, so the knight is hanging. It also hits the bishop. Okay. But it's always defended. This knight can jump in here now. These tactics don't work. You take a knight, he takes a rook. You take a bishop, he takes a bishop. This knight is like, where's it going? Why is it here? There has to be some type of concrete stuff. Oh. That's why it's so good. Because, yeah, I totally missed this. So if we go back, you know, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about the center and just playing around all these lines. But some of these lines are in fact directly aimed at the king. And this bishop cuts off this escape square. Now the f-pawn moved, so the ideas that come with knight g4 are actually attacking the king. It has nothing to do with this coordination square. So you're going to go here and take this pawn, because if he takes, I think this is checkmate. So basically, we go here. We're now threatening this pawn. So he goes here. So now if we take this pawn and he takes, this is checkmate. And if you take this pawn he doesn't take, I mean, that's an important pawn in front of his king. Queen h4. If you queen h4 first and he tries to prevent you, well, then you coordinate 3 times here. That's a thing. Okay, so I'm expecting like a knight sack, a queen move, or a trade and then one of those moves, something like that. Okay, so he does the queen move. So now I understand knight g4. Should have been more obvious, but I was focused on the center. Okay, he's threatening mate in 1. Oh, interesting. He blocks this way. So if he blocks by h3, and we take the knight, he takes the rook. We take a second piece. He takes a second piece. Check. He has to take with his rook, and we take. Either way, it can't be good for him. So white goes here, and this defends this way, hits the queen, but opens up the light squares. Now this bishop's undefended, the queen's under attack, and the knight has pressure. So maybe taking with the knight first was better, but... So now a lot of stuff's hanging, so this is weird. I don't even know what the move is, but they're... Because like if you move your knight, I mean your queen back, the knight hangs, then you could give the rook up for 2 pieces, but you lost the knight. Okay, so yes, he has to solve this problem tactically. So he takes the knight, best move, which was defending the bishop. So we got a minor piece. Oh, I forgot the queen was even hanging. So he took a knight, loses his queen, but that opens up the h3 square for the rook. Does that matter, and why? The only check we can give is a weird knight check that looks useless, and taking. If we take, he has to take with the queen. We do have another rook too. Do we take, threaten? I don't even know. There's one move that's mate in 8 here. Everything else is equality or white's completely winning. Okay, so the winning move is rook d2. Oh yeah. Wait, but it's not defended. Otherwise, yeah, it's an awesome move. And when he takes it, oh, then this guy, oh, it's a deflection. Got it. So we take here, and then he has to sack, and that we checkmate. He has to block with the queen, give back everything. Okay, so he doesn't even take the queen because white is up 8 points of material. So by taking the queen, you get 9, but give back 3. So you're still down. Although I guess you get the bishop at the end or whatever. But he doesn't even do that. He moves his rook here, saying the queen is pinned, so I can't take the rook. And if you take the bishop, checkmate. Okay. Oh, and the guy resigned. 25 move game. Okay, so let's go back real quickly and just take a look at that. Is there a way to reset this? Anyway. Okay, so we have controlling the center and development. We have solidifying the center and prioritizing kingside development. Okay, then we have attacking the center with the idea of a better development in the future. Also developing for the queen. Okay, we have development towards the center. We have development towards the center. We have recapturing our material, developing towards the center. Okay, okay. And now we have prophylaxis. because if you just continue with principles, you will have your nicely developed pieces will be undeveloped, and undeveloping is very bad. So a6 is a specific move for prophylaxis, stopping opponent's ideas. Move 7, prophylaxis. Forced move, one of these. Note he chooses to look at the center when he retreats. Then king safety. And now developing a piece towards the center. And this is a forcing move, right? It's a free move because it hits the bishop. And it's even tied in with our plan because we want to lure this bishop here to get another tempo move. But the point of this move is development. So it's tempo, tempo, all for development. We took the pawn, so he wastes a turn of development. And then we go b5, so we get free turns for development. And then we have development in center. Move 13. And this guy didn't even watch my videos. He just knows. Look at that. And then we have development in center. Move 14. Okay, and now all the pieces are more or less developed. I suppose you could improve this rook. But he decides instead to improve a piece, that piece being this bishop. Yes, the knight's also improved, but he's probably going to trade it. Forced move. Forced move because it's being attacked. Okay, so now we're at move 18. We're at move 18. We did all development, center, king safety, like one improving move, one prophylaxis. Okay, so now we're like, what are the middle game ideas in positions like this? He's still finishing development, last piece. Okay, this is a forced move. Okay, he throws in the check, intermezzo, fair enough. Free moves, we love that. So this is so far a really good game that goes with our principles. And then here, this is a forced move. We have to move the knight somewhere, and he chooses the aggressive option. So it's a forced move and a free move because it actually threatens knight takes h2, which he didn't play, but I think it's there. So again, now that we're in the middle game, we're still at forcing moves with threats. We haven't done anything crazy really. And then in this position, we immediately have knight takes h2. So you could just switch to tactics already, but instead he improves a piece with a threat, or improves a piece for free in essence. Okay, so that's super simple. Of course, you have to calculate h3 and g3 responses because you don't want to give him tempos back. Reverse, no, you don't want that. But he saw knight rook takes c3, which is a winning continuation. So the tactics just stem straight from knight g4. We're still doing tactics. He sees the queen sacrifice, and then it leads to this inevitable mate / overwhelming material. Okay, so super simple, super logical way to play the Tarrasch from the black side. This is just the Tarrasch. If you're a d4 player, or I guess your opponent's playing d4, you just play d5, you can get this position all the time. And now, what do? Develop your pieces, right? If he does some crazy pawn storm, just make sure he can't force you to undevelop. Keep developing all your pieces. Developing your pieces. And the second he finishes developing his last piece, the very next move is tactics and threats. So you can accomplish this. I didn't learn anything crazy here as far as middle game ideas. It just was a nice Tarrasch, open C and D files, beautifully placed pieces. I mean, look at these pieces right here. And the reason this knight didn't pop into my head is because it looks so lonesome over here. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have the very important king's knight on f3, which would defend. That's what makes all of this so strong. And now We're going to keep that in mind. No knight on f6. Okay, good game. Good first game by Akiba Rubenstein. I enjoyed going over this. I'm going to keep going over his games, his best games, trying to absorb his genius into our own. Good luck in your chess. Submit your games in the Discord. See you next time.